I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is our nerdiest thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to our nerdiest thing. Today, we're talking about books with a great plot twist. That's how I always want to say that. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Make sure you listen all the way through for our interview with author Jill Tu. She will be at the Imaginarium Book Festival later this summer. And before we get into anything, Deb, will you please share our nerdy news?
Of course. This week we've got some fantasy coming out as well as some good romance.
Ooh.
So the first book I'm going to speak about tonight is fantasy, and it is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is a gothic, mist-cloaked tale of a seer who's forced beyond the safety of her cathedral to fight gods.
Oh.
The synopsis reminds me of Minority Report, like those seers that are kept like cloistered, and then she is taken out into the real world.
Oh.
For a prophecy, yeah. So Rachel Gillig wrote the One Dark Window duology, and that is so well done. So I'm super pumped for this book. I think it's probably going to be great. The next two are romance, and the first one is The Lover Haters by Catherine Senner.
This is Haters, right?
The Love Haters. What did I say?
Lover Haters.
Lover Haters, The Love Haters. This is a story about a girl who's forced to go and write a personal interest story on a Coast Guard diver who went viral for saving an influencer's puppy. But you know the ones where, like, when you see on the news, like, the rescue people getting, like, stranded boats out of hurricanes and stuff?
Right.
That's essentially what he does. So, of course, they both hate love, but don't hate each other.
I wonder what's going to happen.
I don't know. And we've got a new book coming out by Liz Tom Ford called Rewind It Back. And a shout out to my hockey romance lovers, Mindy, because this one's for you. It's a second chance romance, which I'm a total simp for. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but our local indie is having a signing actually with her this week. It's going to be really, really exciting. She and SJ Tilley. So can't wait for that. And then Whitney and I are headed to Imaginarium Book Festival in 3 weeks. And we have 2 books coming out by those attending authors this week. The first one is The Wrath of the Fallen by Amber V. Nicole. And really anything she writes, I read. She's amazing. This is the 4th book in the Gods and Monsters series that starts with the Book of Azrael. And I can't give any more details than that due to spoilers, but Diana, the FMC, is my favorite shadow mommy to date. And she is a unhinged badass. She goes off the rails all the time and just fucking annihilates people. It's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. She's the best, like, morally black character there is. And then we have a book coming out by Nell Nicole this week called Ashes of Honor. This is the 3rd book in the State of the Union series and has the tagline, "The cost of love is grief." So again, with this being a sequel, I'm going to keep it spoiler free, but you can find out more about Nell's book on our May 6th AMA episode where we have our interview with her. Super duper fun chatting with her. Actually, I don't know. Really Whitney talked to her.
She was really great.
She's been really great online, and I can't wait to meet her in person.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. Thank you so much for all of that nerdy news.
Nerdy news.
Those nerd alerts. That brings us to the nerdy and dirty. We can talk about what we're reading. Mindy, will you start us off?
I actually was fortunate enough to go see Lucy Score in Lexington a couple of weeks ago, and her new book, Story of My Life, is what I'm reading now. It's small town, fish out of water, grumpy sunshine, like all my favorite tropes. She is a romance writer trying to get out of her writer's block, and she's recently divorced. And he is the grumpy construction worker who's fixing up her house.
Ooh.
She basically leaves the big city and goes and buys a house in a small town. And they end up they have all these misadventures, and they, of course, end up...
They hit it off.
They hit it off really well. And trouble just seems to find her. And I guess this is, like, a thing now, but, like, there's a rogue raccoon in it, too. But it is hilarious. It's so funny, the things they get into with this raccoon. And it's not sexual. The way when it came
that's
out,
good.
Yeah, when it came out, it sounded like I was trying to
bestiality.
make it sexual, but I was not.
Well,
but yeah,
nice.
it's a really good read. I like it.
Yeah, I like
it's my
Lucy
first
Scores.
Lucy Score book, actually. I've never read anything by her. But does she do the Riley Thorne series?
She does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I have Whitney's copy of. I'm going to read it someday. Isn't that yours?
I don't know.
This is your chance to go.
Yeah. How long ago did I tell you about it?
Okay, for the record, you had my daughter's Evelyn Hugo book for a year.
I never read it.
Finally, she looks at me and she goes, "Mom, I need my book back from Whitney. Tell her."
Yeah, I literally never read it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really good.
But I also didn't lose it. So, that's a win.
Good.
Oh,
that's good.
You would have heard it from her.
Oh, I know. I would have purchased a new one and been like, no, it was this one. Well, I can share mine. I'm actually late to sharing about this book because we all three read this for our book club a couple months ago. It's Nocticadia. I did not know what to expect when we picked this book. I didn't know anything about it. And I really didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did because really I knew that it was fantasy. I knew it was a fantasy book. And I've been really enjoying rom-coms lately and sports romance books more than fantasy books lately.
I think we've been just not wanting to read about political diversion.
Dark stuff.
So
yeah. I want
diversion, not
diversion. I want the lower stakes for sure. But I really was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed this book. It's definitely not a rom-com. It's very heavily in the fantasy. The only critique that I have is the epilogue. I won't really say why to avoid spoilers, but I wish the epilogue hadn't happened and I would have enjoyed the book a lot more.
I don't remember what it is, so we'll have to talk offline.
Yeah. The tension overall is really great. The spice was really great. I found myself wishing Robbie was a hot, cranky professor that I could seduce away from the lab.
I mean, he sells bread. That's the same.
Science adjacent. Yeah.
There's yeast in that.
Yeah. Gross.
That's not what I meant, you weirdo.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that book. So, read it if you want to.
Cool, thanks.
What about you, Jen?
I read Bridesmaid for Hire by Megan Quinn.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about her a couple of weeks ago because we were saying how fucking funny she is.
Yeah, she is funny.
She made me laugh out loud on several occasions. This book is zany and has like these crazy mishaps that make sense, but in the moment you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
So I will say this is my second Megan Quinn read, and while her writing and characters are really good, I just don't think they're for me.
Yeah.
I find myself struggling to relate to the female main characters. The one I read before this, I just couldn't relate to her because we just had really different lifestyles. And in this book in particular, she is kind of a know-it-all, and then all of a sudden she's not, right?
Yeah.
And so the books are really good, and I will still recommend them to people. I just don't think I'm going to continue reading her books.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I may listen to one at some point or something. But again, they do make me laugh. I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars, but I don't connect as well with her characters.
Yeah, I can see.
That's a very valid point.
Some of her FMCs that I have read are a little bratty.
Yeah.
And just
and
all
you
right.
know what? This is a good reminder to our listeners that you don't have to like every single book you read, but you also don't have to be a jerk about it.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I'm not going to go be like, I don't like her females because of this. Like, I just don't connect with them, and that's okay.
Yeah. There's a difference between this is not a good book and this is not a book for me.
It was a good book.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what we're watching. Mindy, what have you been watching lately?
I'm still finishing up The Rookie.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's 7 seasons. So, and I started it, a few weeks ago. Well, several weeks ago. But I am on season 5. So, and it's getting really good. There's a little a relationship that's been brewing, and it's getting ready.
A will they or won't they kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it's getting ready to will they.
Yeah. Won't they?
Please.
So it's, I don't know. I still really enjoy it. It's also got cop drama stuff in it too, and definitely suspend your disbelief. Like, there's no way all this shit happens to these people.
Well, yeah.
But it's fun.
It's a drama.
There's funny. What I love about it too is there's always in the very beginning there's the sort of the cold opener or the opener.
Yeah.
And it's always some ridiculous. They're in LA, so it's some ridiculous scenario, right? And I can tell it looks like the writers are I really want to explore this, but it really is only a 2-minute thing. So let's put it as the cold opener. I mean, just some of it's completely out there, but super funny.
A lot of those cop or first responder type dramas have really kind of out there.
Yeah.
There was one, I saw a clip on TikTok. I don't know what show the show is called, but I know Rob Lowe was in it, and he's an EMS person, and they get called to somebody's house because this guy locked himself in like a cryo chamber in his house, and he was very frozen. And they tried to do CPR, and it like cracked open his chest. And I was like, all right.
It reminds me of House. I saw this meme going around about House for a while where it's like, I think it's cancer. And then the House is like, I think we should put toothpicks in his anus. And they're like, maybe we should. And then they go back and they're like, no, it was cancer.
Oh, man.
That's kind of true for House, though.
That
like,
is.
Yeah.
That makes sense for House.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about this because I actually talked about this show, or not talked about it. I watched the show before you did, and I've been holding on to my thoughts.
So we can talk about it together.
Talk about it forever. So you go first, and then I'll go.
So I watched on your recommendation.
For once.
For watching. This is a Netflix docuseries, Dancing for the Devil. So it's a cult disguising itself as a religion, and I have a lot to say that was really just focused on the religion part of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. So this is definitely a cult. I feel like sometimes when docuseries like this focus on an organization like that, sometimes part of the show is like, is it a cult? And I'm like, yeah, it is. This is a cult.
Right.
So
can I add in, if a religion is telling you that they need all of your money and are using scare tactics to get you to submit to demands, you in a cult, girl?
Yeah. Yeah. So the leader of this quote religion is really a cult leader, and he is using this organization and these people to make himself really as wealthy as possible at the expense of his parishioners, the churchgoers. So even if you took everything out of the documentary and only had clips of this guy's sermons, which I still don't know how they got those, because
I think the people that escaped were like recording him for a while.
So they have audio clips of this guy's sermons from his church services. And so like every so often in the series, they will play clips of the things that he says. So if you took everything else out of the documentary and only played this guy's clips, I would still despise him as much as I do right now. So nothing makes me angrier faster than a quote unquote preacher who deliberately misuses what the Bible says to twist it for his own purposes. There were some things that he was so blatantly misusing that made me like rage, especially this part of one of the episodes focuses on this whole idea of dying to yourself. And so what this guy is telling his churchgoers, that you need to die to yourself because that's what Jesus tells you to do, and that will bring you closer to Jesus and help save you and everybody that you know and love, right?
Right.
And
his big thing that he uses as leverage is dying for yourself to save those around you.
Yes.
Which
and
is
so
terrifying.
Part of dying to yourself is cutting off all of your relationships of people outside the church. He even told...
you in a cult.
Yeah, he told a guy to cut off his relationship with his like 2 or 3 year old child. I mean, like, that's super messed up. So as somebody who still goes to church and actually reads the Bible, that is not what Jesus was talking about. So let me just be very clear about that. There is the whole idea of dying to self is something that's in the Bible, but that's not what it means. That's not what Jesus was talking about. That is a form of control, cutting you off from your family and friends that aren't in the organization. That's classic cult move.
There's even a part in the docuseries where the parents have started going online talking about it, and he's like, okay, I need you guys to go see your parents, but you're not allowed to talk about anything, and if they bring it up, you leave.
Yeah, you need to go
he's
visit
like, there's
them.
too much heat.
Yep, you need to go visit them, get them to shut up about it. So there's another part where he is preaching, quote, preaching from the pulpit about how he can make you rich and famous. And I'm like, I wrote in my notes, my guy, Jesus did not give 2 craps about rich and famous, and actually preached quite a bit about the opposite, about not being rich and not trying to humble yourself instead of elevating yourself.
But I do point out he does, the whole point of this docuseries that we've not talked about yet is he does make people very famous, and they do get riches, but they don't get to keep them. So
he gets the riches.
Right. You will, if you watch this docuseries, you will recognize the dancers. They are very popular on TikTok. And what he does in the documentary is he convinces all of these dancers that are getting like $1 million endorsements, right, to
on social media,
right, to sign all of their checks so that he can just use them whenever he wants.
Yeah.
So
he's acting as their like manager.
Right. And
talent manager.
But none of the money's going in. It goes into their bank account and is immediately taken back out as like money for the church or whatever, right? And so he steals all of the money from them, but like they get none of the benefit. And so these 3 or 4 people that have escaped that have come forward have talked about how they would have been millionaires and he took all of their money without permission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so just the like the religious side of it, it makes me really, really upset. It makes me upset for the people in this cult who were taken advantage of, because most of them in this series talked about like, I didn't grow up in a religious household. Like I didn't really go to church. They just don't know what the Bible actually says, and they put their trust in this authority figure that should be somebody who's trustworthy.
Well, he also knows his victim, right?
Well,
These are people that were looking for acceptance. They were looking for like found family, essentially, except for a couple of them. A couple of them did have very tight families, but he offered them fame. Mm-hmm. Right? Just, come to my church and I'll help you make it wherever you need to make it. I do want to talk about the fact that there are some really serious sexual misconduct allegations, which is what really upset me about this documentary.
Which, again, that's a classic cult leader move. Eventually, they all go to sexual assault, harassment, whatever.
So some of these, the quote unquote pastor has already admitted to. Like some came open, like 10 or 15 years ago, I think it was. Yeah. And he came forward and he's like, I have a disease and I did. And people were like, oh my gosh, he's so brave. Well, he continued to do it. Mm-hmm. So much so that the one person, there is one person that is really working on a civil case against him. But he told her that if she did not sleep with him, her sister would burn in hell. Yep. So she needed to, he tells everyone, if you don't sleep with me, this is what God wants you to do. Yep. To be connected to me, to be connected to God. The people around you are going to suffer. Yeah. And so there have been, and here's what really frustrates me about this whole story. There have been 4 people that have gone to the same police department and raised sexual allegations against him, like theft of money, theft of all this shit. And they're like, there aren't enough people to come forward. And I'm like, 4 is not enough for you?
I know.
How many people have to be sexually assaulted by this guy before
you care?
Right.
Well, and they didn't talk about this, but I wonder, because they're in California, which is also where Scientology is really prevalent. Right. And I wonder if there are some freedom of religion style laws that protect an organization like that to protect, meant for Scientology.
Most cults do hide behind religion for that reason. They don't have to pay taxes. They don't have the same oversight as like a corporation would. And so I would highly recommend that you go and watch this. It is very triggering in a lot of ways. This is not a documentary at the end where you're going to be like, I feel great. I felt horrible for a couple of days. Yeah. And really kind of like helpless about like, what do I do? Because this guy has never had charges filed against him. Like I said, there's a civil suit. It's supposed to go to court in July of this year, but there's no sexual misconduct in that suit.
Right.
It's just like, you're taking people's money, and that's not, yes, that's a problem, but he is like taking away people's everything. Right. Yeah. Right. And so
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
But I'm like, it came out like a year ago. How come no one's talking about this?
I know. I totally agree. But it was really interesting. It did make me mad. It was not lighthearted.
Obviously,
and low
me
stakes.
Too, because we just talked about it for like 10 minutes. So sorry, Mindy.
That's all right.
Well, Mindy, will you segue us into what you are listening to?
When I was listening to the Dear Felicity podcast, I got up to the Felicity is a odd show where they had this great finale, and then they had 5 more episodes that they had to like do, and so they made it this sort of Back to the Future. They call them the time travel episodes. Anyways, so I guess they hadn't released the podcast episodes that dealt with those 5 episodes, and I just forgot about it. And so I'm going back and I'm listening to the last 2.
Yeah, are they actually good episodes?
It is very
controversial.
I love them.
Network TV used to be a lot different.
It was.
The way it all works.
Very
So,
different.
like, you know, I've watched Veronica Mars with my daughter and Alias and Supernatural,
Yeah.
and I'm like, now, there's been several times on Supernatural where I'm like, we had to wait 3 months for the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, back in my day.
Yeah.
Our kids do not know what a cliffhanger is as far
No,
as
they
like
have
watching
no
it.
Or the
idea.
anxiety behind
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
They
Of
have
like
no idea.
waiting until you. Yeah.
For sure. Well, that's funny because what I'm listening to is a rewatch podcast as
funny.
well. It's Supernatural Then and Now, which
I loved that podcast.
I listened to it like religiously, and then I took a break from it, and I'm getting back into it, and I'm behind. But I just recently listened to an episode. They just started talking about season 7, and they had Jensen Ackles on to talk about one of the episodes that he directed, which I didn't realize.
Is that the Leviathan
That's
season?
the Leviathan
Okay.
season. Yes, I can't remember exactly which episode they were talking about, but it's pretty early on in the season. It might even be the second one. But I really enjoyed listening to his interview. I like the podcast in general because I love the show, but especially when they have some of the main cast come on, and especially Jensen.
Yeah.
because he's my favorite. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I was really interested because he talked in his interview about he actually did not love the Leviathan storyline. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's not one of mine.
I love
think it's
the
6
Leviathans.
and 7. I feel like are one of the weakest
Yeah.
parts of the show.
I love season 7. That's so funny.
But it's still a good show.
Right.
It's just
Well-
no season 5 or season 9.
Well,
That's the
sure.
thing.
He talked about basically like it just went on for too long.
I'd agree.
He was like, I wish it hadn't been the whole season. It was really interesting to just hear him talk about that. Partly because I enjoy that season a lot.
Right.
I like that storyline, but that's one
My
of my
favorite part
big
of that
bads.
entire season is, you know, the big bad ends up being a guy named Dick Roman.
Call me Dick.
And yeah, call me Dick. And there is a part where Jensen is on his computer and Jared looks at him and goes, "Are you looking at porn or are you strictly into dick now?"
Yeah, I highly recommend that particular episode of Supernatural Then and Now, and then the podcast in general.
It's
Yeah.
really fun.
It is really fun.
Go watch that show if you've not. If we have not convinced you
Supernatural's
at this
great.
point, what is wrong with you?
You're just not listening.
Yeah.
What are you listening to, Deb?
So I had a little bit of a slump gold. So I finally found a book that I was like, I'm really enjoying listening to this.
Yay.
And it was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez.
Love her.
It is a long distance grumpy sunshine romance where the hot veterinarian is said to look like a human re-sand.
Ooh.
Yeah. And she takes this like stray cat that she's like picked up and is like falling in love with and it's got like anal prolapse or something. And he's like, your cat doesn't have a butthole and it's going to die. He's like, I need to put it down. And he's like a complete dick about it. And she's like, you're not putting the cat down. And he's like, this surgery costs $10,000. He's like, I either put her down or you're going to watch her suffer. She's going to poop herself to death. And she's like, no, I'm going to do a GoFundMe. And it's called, she ends up naming the cat, I think, like Pooter. And it's like pooping for Pooter is her fundraising campaign. And so, of course, she makes all the money. And then she goes back in and she's like, I thought you'd want to check on my cat's butthole. And they like fall in love. It's so funny. So funny. So heads up. And I think Abby Jimenez is like this a lot, but there are some pretty big triggers in this book, including child abuse, and her mother is declining with dementia. So just make sure you check out the full list of triggers before picking it up, because all of this is on page and is talked about very, very heavily. But having said all of that, it makes you connect with the characters a lot.
Sure,
And the characters, like, there's no third act breakup. I kept thinking it was coming, and like,
Nice.
and here's the thing, you have to just suspend a little bit of belief because it is an insta love kind of thing, but I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I like Insta
Yeah,
Love.
I
Yeah,
do too if it's done right, and this was done right. So it was my first 5-star read in months.
Nice.
Good.
Good.
Glad. I'm glad you're starting
Made
to-
me cry at the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
good job.
Hopefully we're turning the page. And that brings us to our nerdiest topic. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're talking about books with a great plot twist, and we're going to keep it spoiler free. So we're not going to really tell you that much. We're going to recommend these books, and
We're going to try to give you a little bit of the synopsis to
Right.
get you to read them, but beyond
so-
that, sorry.
who wants to go first?
Whitney, why don't you? I want to hear what yours are.
Well, okay. I enjoyed all of these books very much. I'm basically just going to give you the blurb. These are all books that I've read fairly recently, and I think all of these books were 5-star reads for me. So The first one is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager.
I have to second that one.
Yeah, it was really good. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of bourbon, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple living in the house across the lake. There's the title. They make for a good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom's powerful, and a former model, Catherine, is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a friendship. But the more they get to know each other and the longer Casey watches, it becomes clear Catherine and Tom's marriage is not as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey immediately suspects Tom of foul play. What she doesn't realize is there's more to the story than meets the eye.
In this book, the narrator, we were talking last episode about like what makes you DNF an audiobook, like what is it? And this in particular, I DNF'd as audio, but I was enjoying it so much I picked it up right away and just read it. And it is because the narrator, this woman is supposed to be 36, and I remember because I went and looked at her age several times, and the narrator's like, and then I was looking at the house across the lake, and I'm like, how fucking old is she? Christ.
Oh, once you hit 35, you might as well be 80.
Fuck off. And so, which you're over 35 now too.
I'm over that age too.
So the other thing is, this is the book that I had taken a gummy while I was reading it, and I saw you the next day, and I was like, you must read this book, but I had to go back today and reread a section because I wasn't sure if it happened or not because the plot twist is so insane. I was like, wait, did I dream that on a gummy?
Yeah, I loved that book a lot.
Great book. Sorry. Now you can go.
Next is Without the Moon, Act 1 by Larissa C. Moyer. I talked about this at our book superlative episode at the end of 2024. Through the Kindle, like across the room, messaged the author as soon as I finished. It was so good. So here's the blurb for that. 7 years ago, a vile experience tore the two of them apart, leaving them shadows of their former selves, ghosts to haunt each other. A haunting so deeply embedded that Link now lives a reclusive life, hiding out in the Santa Monica Mountains with his only friend, Ellis, a quiet existence without her. Paige has made it through the loneliest year of her life without him, and now without her Graham. After moving to Hollywood last year, she spends her nights dancing at LA's most exclusive burlesque club with only the memory of his dark hazel eyes watching her. When Paige and Link's lives unexpectedly collide at that club, they quickly realize their memories of what happened all those years ago are not the same. But the gravity of seeing each other again is a crushing weight, and the years of separation have given their trauma nothing but time and space to fester. Though one thing is clear, even through the blurry, fractured memories, what happened to them sure as hell wasn't the end.
Oh.
Next is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If you've been a listener, you might have read this book, but we talk about it all the time. And I will still give you the blurb because I think you should read it. Chosen from birth to usher in a new era, Poppy's life has never been her own. The life of the maiden is solitary, never to be touched, never to be looked upon, never to be spoken to, never to experience pleasure. Waiting for the day of her ascension, she would rather be with guards, fighting back the evil that took her family than preparing to be found worthy by the gods, but the choice has never been hers. The entire kingdom's future rests on her shoulders, something she's not even quite sure she wants for herself, because a maiden has a heart and a soul and longing.
And a vagina.
And when Hawk, a golden-eyed guard, honor-bound to ensure her ascension, enters into her life, destiny and duty become tangled with desire and need. You like how I'm doing this here?
I do. Red hot reads, baby.
Yeah, he incites her anger, makes her question everything she believes in, and tempts her with the forbidden.
Okay,
So
can
there you
I
go.
say, because I've thought about this several times, our friend Holly, shout out to Holly, told Mindy and I to read these books, and we got like obsessed with them. But if I had read that synopsis, it is not written anything like Jennifer Armentrout writes.
I'm sure she didn't write it.
No, I'm sure she
Yeah.
didn't, but it is not really indicative of her writing style, and I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
sure I would have picked it up.
Oh, well,
Yeah, without
sorry.
a friend's recommendation.
Sorry, friends, you should still read it.
No, I'm saying that the blurb doesn't really
Doesn't do it
give the
justice.
book
Oh, well,
justice.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it does not really like epitomize how amazing the book is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder who writes these, because you know it's not them.
Right.
It's not the authors.
Yeah,
right?
she did not write that.
But-
She's not that long-winded.
I have two more recommendations, and this next one I'm going to give a little bit of a caveat to. So, but this recommendation is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. And the twist itself was one that I predicted and saw coming, but I really enjoyed this book a lot, and I think it's worth reading, even though the twist itself, I was like, yes, this is what I thought was going to happen. These other books, I did not guess any of these twists. When Ophelia's sister disappears, there's only one way to save her. Ophelia must enter Phantasma, a deadly contest inside a haunted mansion, and claim its prize, a single wish. Phantasma is a maze of twisting corridors and lavish ballrooms of demons and temptations. Ophelia will face 9 challenges, each more dangerous than the last. There can only be one winner, and the other contestants will stop at nothing to eliminate their rivals. And then there's also a hot guy too. That blurb was the blurb for Phantasma was like super long, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to read that. And then last but not least, Guild by Raven Kennedy. It's the book 1 of the Plated Prisoner series. This is the blurb. Gold floors, gold walls, gold furniture, gold clothes. In Highbell, in the castle built into the frozen mountains, everything is made of gold, even me. King Midas rescued me, dug me out of the slums, placed me on a pedestal, and I'm called his precious, his favored. I'm the woman he gold touched to show everyone that I belong to him, to show how powerful he is. He gave me protection, and I gave him my heart. And even though I don't leave the confines of the palace, I'm safe until war comes to the kingdom and a deal is struck. Suddenly, my trust is broken, my love is challenged, and I realize everything I thought I knew about Midas might be wrong, because these bars I'm kept in, no matter how gilded, are still just a cage. But the monsters on the other side might make me wish I'd never left.
You just made me want to reread that.
I know.
So I will say, if you've not read that series, the first book, it takes a while to get to the twist, and there's a lot of sexual assault in it. And I remember being like, oh, I don't know if I can keep going. And again, a friend recommended like, no, you've got
keep
to.
Going.
And I'm so glad I did.
Me too.
Yeah. Same here.
So those are all the blurbs. Those are my top, I think those were 5. Top 5 great plot twists. So.
I didn't count how many I have, but I can go next. Let me see. I'm going to look real quick. I have 6. Okay.
Well, there you go.
I know. We were like on the same wavelength. Okay, so
7.
Well, that works out
5, 6, 7. Yeah.
So the first one I want to talk about is a book that just came out last month. It's called Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stevens. It's a story about an ill-fated couple who have to kill one another in every reincarnated life before they turn 18.
Ooh.
And you think you know the twist? You don't know the twist. I'm just saying. And it is so beautifully written. Like poetry. It's gorgeously written. Like I would read it and I'd go back and be like, I have to read that sentence again.
Yeah.
Because it's such a good sentence.
Nice.
And I want to like quote it all over the place. It's such a good book. Okay. The second one is What the Woods Took by Courtney Gold. I spoke about this book a lot last year. This book features kids who are dropped in the Oregon wilderness for discipline camp, but the camp leaders go missing and then come back not quite themselves. And it was so funny. We were watching TV last night with the kids, and Paris Hilton was doing like a commercial for the lottery or something. And my husband looked at me and he goes, I respect her so much more knowing that she like lobbies for kids not to be taken to these camps. And I was like, I know, me too.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem as like vapid.
Right.
As but I mean, that was kind of her thing for a while.
Right.
But I love that she stands up for these kids that are still going through that. And my son, who's 13, looked at me and goes, oh my God, that's a real thing. And I said, yes, it is. And it happens today. I'm sure it's happened this week. Yeah. It's awful. The third one is no surprise if you're a Sarah J. Maas fan, but Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath has this amazing twist ending. If you have read ACOTAR and The Throne of Glass, but not Crescent City, I urge you to read this series. I can't tell you why.
Just
if you know,
do
you
it.
know.
Yeah.
Just do it. You won't be sad about it. I promise. That's the second book in the series that has the huge twist. The next one I want to talk about is Grave Matter by Katrina Hawley. This is one of those books, like as a reader, while you're reading it, you're like, what the fuck is going on? I'm so confused. And when the twist is revealed, it all makes sense. This book is dark academia. The spice is spicy. And I will say for you, Whit, if you really liked Nocticadia, this book is like that, but takes it 10 million steps further.
Ooh.
So I read this first and Nocticadia second, which made me not like Nocticadia very much.
Yeah.
Which isn't like a slap on that author. It was still a good book, but I had already read this and I loved this book.
Right.
Another one is One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. This book is about a group of socialite women who bring their beauty esthetician into like their inner fold, right? They want to be friends with her. The book opens and you know that someone has died, but you don't know who it is until the final chapter of the book. And there's some really, really good poetic justice because all of these women are like debutantes and they are horrible
Like I was going to say
people.
about they're horrible people.
Horrible people. And so she gets hers And a bunch of people die, and it's really kind of amazing the way that Geneva Rose does it. And then finally, I want to talk about The Coven by Harper L. Woods, which neither of you have read, right? Okay. No. The female main character in this story is a witch that's sent to a college where the enigmatic professor is not only sexy, but holds some pretty serious secrets. So she is the heir to like the first line of witches. So she has like all these extra powers, but he has like a huge secret. And when I was reading,
was gonna say
that too,
maybe that's the secret.
Yeah. Well, and with all Harper L. Woods books, they're you need to read the triggers in this, but. Okay. He does have a huge dick in this, but he is like grumpy professor and you don't know why he's being like that. But everything is explained at the very end. You just have to keep going. Because for me, when I was reading this, I was like, okay, I get it. This is pretty good. And then the book ended and I was like, holy fuck. This was so good. And the second one's even better. So yes, go read The Coven, Harper L. Woods. What are yours, Mindy?
Wonderful.
I'm not as like in depth as you all, but I'll try to like give you a little taste.
I feel like I was too in depth, so that's okay.
So these are just a few of them, and most of these I've read recently. A couple were a little while ago. So the first one's The Collective by Alison Galen, and this is a book about vengeance. So it's a group of women who have had someone they love taken from them. Usually it's a child or something, and the person who took them away from them, they basically, killed them or murdered them, however, whatever happened, got away with it. And so this is basically this girl who has lost her son. She's been ostracized because she's kind of obsessed with the kid that killed, because it was a younger guy that killed her son. And so she finds this collective, and it's basically like it's like a machine, right? So like one person will buy the knife and then send it to someone else, and then
like an assembly line.
Yes. So like no one person can be
traced.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the revenge is gotten. But there's a twist obviously to it. And so I'm not going to give that away.
Thank you.
The second one is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I really, really enjoyed this book. And there are books that I think that are similar to it as far as like, it starts out, she's a nanny. So she takes a nanny job. I think it's in Scotland even. Like, it sounds very like she's trying to get away from her life or whatever. And so this family is, obviously there's more than meets the eye. And then there's this whole big extra twist in the end. So like there's a twist and then there's a twist over that.
Oh.
Very, very cool. And then this one will be no surprise. I feel like I talk about this book ad nauseum. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. It's just such a good book. There's so much going on there, and then the twist. I feel like if the plot twist is good, it means I didn't guess it.
Yeah,
because I'm really notoriously bad about like. Well, I knew what that was going to happen.
I think when you read as avidly as we do, sometimes it's
hard
easy.
To surprise us.
Right, it is, and so when something shocks you, I'm like, oh, I got to read it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that's like sitting there watching The Rookie with my daughter and saying, oh, it's that person, right? And she'd be like, Mom, stop.
Let me figure it out.
I know. So, but anyway, that one's really, really good. It's a little bit of historical fiction. It's set in the 60s and the 70s. It's a little bit of a dual timeline.
I can't get past that because every time you say historical fiction, I think 1890s.
That's why I say it's a little bit of historical fiction.
You covered this several episodes ago about how now like the 90s is historical fiction. And I'm sorry, I just can't get behind that.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting.
But no, it's a really great, there's a little bit of a paranormal aspect, sort of. I don't know. There's just lots going on, and then you'll be surprised in the end. So the next one is Night Swimming by Erin Starmer. This is an arc that I got. It was so, so good. It's about a group of kids at the end of graduation, and they go and they find this. They're trying to find all the swimming pools in their area and like break in and swim in the swimming pools. Yeah. So then they find out they broke into this one, and there's another lady there, and she tells them about this other swimming area, and it's not a pool, it's just like a swimming hole kind of thing. And they go, and then all this weird stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
Friendships are tested. Then there's sort of a little bit of a romance going on. Yeah. It's very, very good and very interesting. Of all of these, The God of the Woods and Night Swimming were probably my favorites. Then there's We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I think I just talked about this book in the Shakespeare episode. It's just really, really good. There's a secret private island, and there's all these secrets that and then you realize at the end, you're like, what the fuck? Holy shit.
What the fuckity fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I can't even give anything really away because it will give it away. But just read it. It's really, really good. And then just two more. These I read quite a while ago, actually. So No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one is set at a rest stop. And there's like 4 or 5. It's very late at night. And there's 4 or 5 cars. And they end up stuck there. And then are hostages. They're not sure who it is that's keeping them hostage.
That's a little too close to comfort because we've been stranded at a rest stop together before.
It was daytime, though.
It was daytime.
Yeah.
But also we were anxious.
Yeah, no, this is true. We were.
This is true. If you've got like some serious triggers, just don't read it. But like, because if I tell you the trigger, then it gives it away.
Yeah, no.
And then finally, Mind of Winter by Laura Kosicki. I read this quite a while ago from a book club that I used to be in quite a while ago. I think I might be the only one that like loved it. Everybody kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's about a woman who, well, it's a family. It's a man and a woman, and they adopt a girl from Russia, and she grows up with them, and then they start to realize that she's not acting like herself. And it's all this whole big thing. And then she and her daughter are stuck in their house. There's a big snowstorm, and her husband's on the way home, and all sorts of weird stuff starts happening. And then there's a twist. So this one, honestly, like, this is one of the best like psychological suspense books I've ever read. It's so good. Called Mind of Winter.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's mine.
Lots of good plot twisty
and lots
books.
of variety, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Got lots of different
types. Yeah, different genres and everything. Well done, friends.
I might restart Guild tonight.
I know.
So good.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to our nerdiest things of the week. Who wants to go first?
Mine is like such a random thing, but you're going to laugh when you hear that this happened. So Derby in Kentucky, a lot of people don't realize Derby is our Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know how
It's a big deal.
Yeah, for people that don't live here at Christmas, when you're like, we'll talk after the holidays, you literally will say, we're going to meet after Derby. Like the 2 weeks leading up to Derby is called Derby Festival. There's a huge fireworks show. There's stuff every night. There's galas, there's wine tastings, bourbon tastings, horse stuff, all this stuff. So the night before Derby, there's always these huge celebrity parties, and I sit on the committee for one of them, and I manage all of the volunteers. And we were leaving a committee meeting the other day, and some of the girls were asking me about the podcast and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's how many books I read last year. And one of them goes, I have a friend that reads so many books. She's reading on this website called like AO3. And she's like, she's reading this like Draco and Hermione, like porn. And I was like, I'm going to stop you right there. First of all, it's not porn. I said, second of all, is it Manacled? And she goes, oh my God, you're the biggest fucking nerd I've ever met. So me and this girl that I have never met are on a text chain together.
Oh, nice. About Manacled. That's
because
funny.
this girl cannot find anyone else that's read this book.
Yeah.
And her friends are making fun of her about it. And I'm like, listen, don't make fun of fan fiction. Like some of it is very legit. Also, this girl is about to be traditionally published. It's one of the best books I've ever read. I know Mindy will disagree. Shame on you. But I love that in the wild, someone brought up Manacled, and I was like, I know what that is.
That's really
They were giving her shit, though. I was like, stop giving your friends shit. This book is amazing.
Yeah, it is really good. It's not like a fan fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
It is not written like a middle schooler wrote it.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. It is good writing. I know you didn't love it, Mindy, but
it is good writing.
have to admit the writing's good.
I definitely would admit that.
What's your nerdiest thing, Mindy?
I have a couple because one just happened to me right before I came here. First, I just bought the cutest little shirt from ModCloth. It's a little ringer tee that says, I made you a mixtape.
Oh,
It's really great.
That's how my husband knew I was into him. I brought him mixed CDs.
I mean, that was the ultimate gift of that you would give to your crush. Like, I made you this mixtape, and it made me think of you. So anyway, this is such a Gen X thing. I just thought it was super cute, and I immediately bought it. But the other one is that I am reading an arc by Julia Olivia. It's her third Never Harbor book. It comes out. It'll already be out by the time this airs. But in the very beginning, she, like people put like a little playlist for their characters or their book or whatever. And in her playlist, she listed a Guster song, which is one of my favorite. And actually, the Sexual Butler and I, not my Sexual Butler.
My Sexual Butler.
Okay. Deb's husband and I go to concerts quite frequently. That just did not come out right. Go to concerts together, and this is one that we love to go together. Guster, they're just really fun, and not a lot. They're very underrated, and not a lot of people know them.
Yeah.
And just one of their songs was on her playlist, and so I DM'd her, and I was like, I am so excited that you put this on there, and then she DM'd me back.
Oh, nice.
It was really fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's nice when
I
when
still
authors
love
talk to
when
us.
I know. I still
Like
love
interact.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my nerdiest thing, similar to previous nerdiest things that we've talked about in the past, we've talked before about how I talk in like an Australian accent
I love it.
to help with my anxiety. I realized this week that when I start a new book, if I'm having a hard time like getting into it, I read it out loud in a British accent.
What?
I just like, it's just something I do, like sitting at carpool if
Is
I'm
it
by
just like an
myself.
auditory thing for you?
I guess like it helps me focus on it. And then I guess I feel weird to do it in my own voice. I'm like, well, I mean, I need to have an accent. But yeah, I was like, I do this too.
What are you going to do if someday you find out, because you're PTA president of the school next year, and someone's like, I thought she was British because they heard you reading in your car.
But I don't do it in like, no one would hear me. Nobody would be able to hear
Because-
me. The
That you know
windows are
of.
up. The AC is on. It's got that white noise background.
There
Yeah,
was a
no way.
TikTok about a girl that said me realizing that people could hear my book outside of my car.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is way louder than we think it is.
It definitely is. I
Just
make
so
sure
you
and turn
know,
it
though,
down.
Like I can tell. Sometimes I will read or I will look at reels or TikToks or something like that somebody sends me, and if it's got
Subtitles.
text, then I won't turn it up if I'm
Yeah.
like in the room with Darren or whatever, and I
Me
don't want to
too.
bother somebody. I can always tell when they're British
Ah.
by the way that their mouth
Move their mouth. Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
cadence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they look so eloquent and pretty. We love you,
Sure.
Brit listeners.
Well, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for our interview with author Jill 2, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today, we are live with a very special guest, author Jill 2. Jill is the critically acclaimed author of dystopian romance and middle grade novels that imagine Black girls in exciting new worlds. Her debut novel, The Dividing Sky, was a top 10 kids indie next pick and was selected by Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, Bookshop.org, and Reactor Magazine as one of the best young adult books of the year. Her middle grade debut, Kaya Morgan's crowning achievement, is available now. A graduate of the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, Jill lives in Atlanta with her family. She's also a co-host of the Afronauts Podcast, which provides writing tips and community for Black aspiring speculative fiction writers. When not writing, she can be found stress baking, gardening, or belting show tunes in the carpool line. Welcome to the podcast, Jill. Thank you so much for being on with us.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, I relate a lot to two of your hobbies, the stress baking and the belting songs in the carpool line. That is very much
Oh yeah.
me.
Oh yeah. Just anything that just like gets it out, just get out the tension.
Yeah, there are some songs that you don't realize like how much of a cathartic release it's going to be
yeah.
for you.
Oh yeah. A little bit of like Waitress. You're like, this is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, used to be mine is my
yeah.
I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
really on that song right now. Before we get into the questions about your books, I would love to know, like, what do you like to stress bake?
Yeah. So my easy like go-to is there's a recipe for like 1 bowl lemon blueberry scones that are
Ooh.
really, really good. And scones are like surprisingly easy. Like you just put like all the dough in, then you can like, kind of fold your different like triangle shaped things and pop them in the oven.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast. They go very fast, but they're quick
love
to make.
lemon and blueberry. I recently made a baked oatmeal that was a lemon blueberry baked oatmeal. It was
Ooh,
really
yeah.
good.
That
And now
combination. Yeah.
I'm going to need to make that again. That's awesome.
Yeah. It says like early summer to me, lemon and blueberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Well, congratulations on the release of Kaya Morgan's crowning achievement. And I would just love to know what motivated you to write for the middle-aged demographic.
Yeah. So I originally started that story off as a short story. And when I wrote it, I was trying to submit it to an anthology that had like an open call for authors,
Yeah.
especially like new authors that weren't represented by agents yet. This was like 5 years ago. And when I wrote it, originally it was YA. So Kaya's character was like a teenager kind of competing to be in this contest at her Renaissance Festival. And I came close, I think, to getting into the anthology, but ultimately my submission did not win. And I had the story sitting here and I was like, well, like, it's hard to find places to submit like just YA that's not speculative. There's like nothing like, about it that was like, there were no like magazines. Like it wasn't especially literary. I was like, where does this go? So I sat on it for a while. And then the more I began noodling on it, I was like, well, this journey and this character actually feels a little bit closer to middle grade for me. Kaya is like a little bit Delulu, like a little bit like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, I know this is for me and I'm going to do it. She happens to be right. But I feel like that sort of like dogged persistence, that like, who cares what anybody else says? My family, my friends, this camp. I know what I like.
Confidence.
That
I love
confidence. That. Like without that cynicism that tends to build as we get older. And so I was like, this really feels like a middle grade story. And so when I began to retool it to be a novel, I aged it down and I think it fit really, really well.
That's awesome. I love it. We don't get to talk to very many YA and certainly not middle grade writers. So that's really cool. I'm enjoying that a lot. My oldest is 11, and he's getting into like Percy Jackson right now.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm always like on the lookout for those like middle grade writers. So I love that.
That's cool.
You are also the author of The Dividing Sky, which is YA dystopian romance. So what can readers look forward to when they pick up that book?
Oh man, that book is a lot of fun. I feel like as my debut, I just had like this like soft spot in my heart for it, and probably always will. So that is a standalone enemies to lovers dystopian romance, and it's about Liv, who sells memories. So her job is to read books and watch movies and look at sunsets and like blades of grass blowing in the wind, and record those memories and sell them to clients who are too busy working to live life for themselves.
Oh, that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, it's a fun one. People are always like, "Oh, that's interesting." I was like, "Yeah," like it feels. I also hear like, "I want one of those," and I'm like, "No, like you're not supposed to want one of those." That's like cautionary tale.
Dystopian.
Yeah, exactly. So on the low, Liv is also selling those memories to her fellow lower class, right, just to make an extra buck. But you're not supposed to do that. So that puts her on Adrian's radar, and he's like the rookie law enforcer for the company that runs the government. So he's like, "I'm going to arrest this girl." And he traps her down in the woods outside the city. But when he gets there, she has wiped all of her memories. So she doesn't know who he is, who she is, or that she's a criminal. And he's like, shoot, like, can I arrest this girl for crimes that she doesn't even like know she committed, right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of kicks off from there. It's really fun. It's if you like romantasy, I feel like even though it's sci-fi, quote unquote, it's a really natural fit. Like it's got a great found family, and there's like banter in the woods, and a really, I think, like hopeful message about what it means to lead a meaningful life. Are we just like going for productivity, or is there a deeper purpose to everything? So yeah, it's like the book of my corporate burnout heart, I would say.
Yeah, I really, really like that concept of, because we kind of live in a world right now, right, where people are so busy that they're not experiencing the world, they're not experiencing life. And I think that's part of the reason why social media is as popular as it is, because we can live vicariously through other people in that same kind of way. I really love that a lot. That was a great idea. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I was born from a lot of my own frustrations with like corporate America and just all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's gonna go much higher up on my TBR. So everything else is just gonna have to wait.
Hear it.
Yeah. So your next release is An Ocean Apart, which comes out in October 2025. So what can readers expect from this book? This is a YA novel as well, right?
Another YA, and it's another dystopian romance. It's set in the same world as The Dividing Sky, but they're both standalones, so you can read them in either order. No characters overlap. It's actually
That's what I was just about to ask.
Yeah, An Ocean Apart is actually like 100+ years before The Dividing Sky. So,
cool.
But you can read them in either. There's Easter eggs in both directions, so it doesn't ruin anything. But this one's fun. I said at a Polycon, people kept asking me like, what the book was about, and I came up with if the capital from the Hunger Games hosted The Bachelor on a cruise ship, it would be this book. It's really fun. It's basically. This girl, Eden, lives in Miami. It's been flooded. This is like 100+ years in the future. And there's no drinking water. And like their lives have been ruined by these like wealthy elite who now like sail the world in their like massive cruise ships and kind of like govern from afar, but, could care less about what's going on, back on land. And one of the ships is run by this like wealthy CEO of like a water corporation, and she decides she wants to like find her, 18-year-old son's like perfect match, like his love match. And so she decides to host this competition for all the wealthiest girls to come like try to like compete for his hand. And so Eden's like, great, like if I can sneak on board and like pretend to be one of these wealthy girls, like I can steal all of his money and break his heart on national television. Like I am so there. And so that's the plan. She has a like best friend / maybe more back home named Henry who doesn't love this plan. And so there's a little bit of a love triangle, a little bit of like so it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun.
I love that. So the idea of like the capital of the Hunger Games, meaning like lots of wealth, lots of excess, leisure.
Yes. High-tech ball gowns. Like it's really fun. Like the I call them the cruisers, but they live on these boats, but they've abandoned like nature and land and stuff. And so a lot of their fashion has to do with like the nature that they abandoned. So think like fireflies and sunsets and glaciers and like all these things like inspiring their fashion and their couture. So it's really fun.
Yeah, I love that. And similar to the question about writing for middle grade, I'm just curious, what led you to start writing for YA as opposed to adult? Was it where your stories took you? Because that sounds like with the middle grade book, like that's where the story led you, right?
Yeah, so the story led me. I think, my kind of like origin story as an author is kind of like steeped in YA because I loved writing as a kid and then kind of forgot about it when it was time to like choose a more serious career. And was, facing hard burnout in like my, second of 3 jobs after graduation that I like burned out, like did well in, but like personally was feeling like empty inside. And some friends of mine, some coworkers were like, let's go see a movie. And I said, great. And this was, 12 years ago, I think. And it was Divergent. And so I was like, wow, like I remember feeling like this and like wanting to tell stories and all of that. And so I feel like because it kind of like was steeped in YA from the start, that's kind of where I gravitate. But I am, I do have some adult stories that I've written. One that's already on submission right now with editors, and one that is my like current work in progress. So all over. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love when it's so obvious that authors are committed to the story and just let the story go where the story needs to go instead of trying to make the story fit the box they want to be in. And I really respect that.
Totally. I've had ideas where I was like, I could make this YA or I could make this adult. But when you kind of hold it up, you're like, I'd have to sacrifice X, Y, or Z, right? And so, I think most of us just go where the story kind of demands to be taken. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So in addition to writing, you have your podcast, The Afronauts. So tell us a little bit about that podcast. What led you to want to build that community and how building that community is going?
Yeah, for sure. So it started, I can't even tell you, like at least 5 years ago now, maybe closer to 6. A friend of mine, KL Bird, an author, reached out to me and a bunch of other, I think there was like, I don't know if you were on Twitter back when there were like the Twitter like pitch contests, right? So like you would like pitch your story with like the hashtag and like all this stuff. And there were different hashtags for, different genres, and then also for like own voices or like black writers and black stories. And KL found like the cross section of us who were writing speculative stuff and we're black, and was like, hey, there aren't that many of us. Like, do you want to start a Slack group? And so, me and 50 other people were like, yeah. And that was just a great community for a while. And a handful of us in that group decided that we like had more to say, and we're like, hey, like, let's start a podcast. We were the ones that were like the vocal ones in the chat, right? And some point someone was like, y'all need to like say this somewhere where other people can hear you.
Get on the microphone.
Yeah, exactly. So then we started the podcast, and it's evolved in lots of different ways. We've kept it going. And I think what's amazing, so, we've had our kind of ups and downs and tribulations. KL, who was the founder of that Slack group, and one of the founders of the podcast, actually passed away, which was really hard to deal with. Yeah. But 3 of us have kept going on the podcast. And what's been cool to see is, as our like careers have taken off, the podcast we were all unagented when the podcast first started, right? And so to see us getting agents and us getting book deals and other book deals and all these things kind of like come into being, as like marked by the passage of time of like each of the episodes, has been like a really cool way to memorialize like our journey. So
Yeah, that's really cool. And for listeners who may not know, and also for Whitney who may not know, when
Mhm.
you are talking about speculative writers,
Oh
does that
yeah,
just mean
sure.
like trying to submit? What exactly does that mean?
Oh, so speculative is literally like the genre. So I would say
Oh,
like
okay.
science fiction, fantasy, and horror mostly would be those
Oh,
three.
all right.
Yeah. So anything that's like what if, any sort of what if story would be a speculative. Yeah.
Okay. You taught me
Yeah.
something today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we will see you very soon at Imaginarium Book Festival this June in
Yes.
Washington. Are there
Yes.
any authors that you're fangirling about being there with? Anybody that you're going to meet or see again that you're just really excited about?
Definitely. On the, I don't know if this is meet or see again, but and I'll explain why. So Roseanne Brown, is an author who lives in the DMV area, and she wrote A Song of Rights and Ruin, like that duology, and
Yeah,
that was when I was first beginning to write and query. That book, along with like a handful of others that summer, was like everything to me. Of like, this is what I'm aspiring to. And she was at a Polycon like less than 3 weeks ago. And I walked by her table and it was like in between sessions, so she wasn't there. I was like, oh, like I'm gonna come back. But Polycon was wild and chaotic, and I did not
crazy.
come
Yeah.
back. And I think it was like 2 days later, I was like, I never went back to the table to like introduce myself. So I'm hoping that she's at I think she goes to Imaginarium pretty much every year. So I'm hoping to see her there. And Tomi Adeyemi is another author who was kind of in that same 2019, 2020 time period. And again, like just like seeing what's possible, I would love to like, at least attend her session. I don't think I'll get a chance to meet her because I'm sure the line will be like ridiculous.
Crazy.
But just
Yeah.
to be in the same room as her would be amazing. And the last one is Nisha J. Tooley, who is a fantastic author. And I think she's like working on a little dystopian something, something. So
Oh,
I think she
fun.
just read The Dividing Sky recently and told me she enjoyed it. So I would love to just meet her and
Oh, I
gab.
love
I
that.
think we might be on a panel together. So love to
Yeah,
see her
maybe.
work.
Roseanne Brown was on one of our panels last year at Imaginarium and
Oh,
came out to
cool.
dinner with us one night, and
Oh, that's
it was a
awesome.
lot of fun.
That's so
She
cool.
was really great. So yeah, it'll be a really fun time. Well,
Yeah.
that brings us to our nerdy and dirty speed round. I've got just some random questions for you for our listeners to get to know you a little bit deeper as a
Okay.
person, not just as an author. And so
Okay.
no wrong answers, just whatever pops into your head. So
Okay.
away we go. If you could only stress bake one recipe for the entire year,
Ooh.
what would you choose?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be hard for me to live a whole year without some sort of like chocolate chip cookie situation. So I'm just gonna go with like the classic. I have a good like no chill recipe, which I don't have to like. The thing about cookies is like you usually have to like let them sit in the fridge for a while. I don't have the patience for that.
Me
So
too.
so yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
I
go
love
with
a
a
no
good
chill. A no
no
chill
chill
cookie recipe is
no
the
chill
best.
cookie. Yes.
I approve of that answer. Good job.
Yay. Thank you.
If you had to try to survive in the world of one of your books, which character would you want to partner up with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna cheat and go with the world of Kaya Morgan because that's like basically our world. Like she lives in suburban Atlanta, so like that's where I am. Kaya's bestie, Rihanna, is like she she will like defend you. Like she is like the most loyal best friend like you could ever have. So I would team up with her. I feel like we could take the world by storm. Like she's 12, but she is mighty, and she is not to be messed with. She's like a math and science nerd and she
Yeah.
could figure out some wizardry to make a strong team. So yeah.
No, that's a great answer. I don't think that's cheating at all. We did recently an Ask Me Anything for the
Hmm.
podcast, and
Hmm.
somebody asked us what fantasy world we would want to live in. And I
Yeah.
picked the bonds that tie because they're just like in the human world.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's like I want to
Yeah, I was like,
survive.
oh,
So I'm gonna pick this one. And just
exactly.
like
Yeah.
none of that's happening as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Oh, that's
This
great.
is a tough question for authors, but which of
Yeah.
your characters do you relate to the most?
Whew, that is a really hard one. It's like they're all a different part of me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But probably the one that is like the most me is in The Dividing Sky. Liv, the main character, has a little like they're not blood related, but she basically is like her little sister.
Mm,
And she's 9, and her name is Celeste. And she is just like she wants to help. Like she wants to like do what it needs to be done for the team. She's another like kind of like smart like tech whiz. But she's just like, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help? That gets her in trouble. She like decides to help in ways that are like actually kind of like not great for the crew and get Liv to make some drastic choices to like help her. But her heart's in the right place. And she'll
A for effort.
A for effort. She'll like scurry into a corner and spy on whoever for you. Like she's like she wants to help, and she's small and she can fit in compact places. So yeah.
So you are the helper.
I am the helper. I am the people pleaser. I am the like ready to take one for the team. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great quality to have, especially in a friend. That's great.
Yeah.
What was your favorite book as a child?
Yeah, my first favorite book, I think, was probably Anne of Green Gables.
Yes.
I think I read it in like 4th or 5th grade, and something about like seeing a girl who like was like a tremendous, enormous dreamer, right? And like, despite the world around her, and like, I think in some ways, like, thawed the cold, cold heart of some of the like more practical adults in her life, and like brought this whimsy and magic to like everybody around her, and like really like transformed that town. I loved that, like I think I was already, even at a young age, being kind of pushed into it in a direction where like people saw that I was bright, and then we're thinking about like, okay, that brightness means like good college means good job, right? And it was nice to see a bright girl who was using her intelligence for like dreaming and just like wondering, and just for the purpose of like imagination. So I love that.
Creativity.
Yeah.
Were you also a fan of the miniseries? The Canadian?
I love the original, not the Anne with an E, but like the original, like PBS. Yes, the PBS. Actually, absolutely. So good. I actually was like planning a rewatch one of these days. I need to reread and then rewatch, I think, because I love that. Yeah. Whenever there was like the donation drive, I would always watch, because they would always play it when they were like waiting for the PBS donation drive.
So I felt like watching it a couple of months ago and found it. I can't remember which streaming thing it was on.
Oh,
but
nice.
It was like $15, and I was like, yeah, I'll pay $15. But then it was $15 just for like the first little part.
No.
The first 90 minutes or the first 60 minutes or something. And then the next part was also $15. And I was like, excuse me.
Yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky.
Yeah, so I'll have to wait until I get a hankering for it again, and then I'll pay another $15 so I can watch it all. Did you watch Netflix's Anne with an E? Because I never watched that one. I love the original one too much.
I think I hopped around, and I might have watched some fan edits at some point just to kind of see what what the vibe was, but it felt a little bit too like it felt too topical, because like the whole point of like Anne of Green Gables is that it's very much just like they have adventures and like go like down the rivers. Like it was too much like, and now we're gonna like stop this problem. Like Gil's dad's in trouble. It's like, I don't care. Like I don't want I don't want that. I want the like
the whimsy,
the raspberry cordial. I want that, right? I don't want like
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love Anne with Green Gables too. That's great.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to do on your day off?
Yeah. I think my favorite thing to do is be at home. I'm a homebody. My favorite, like if I could like craft an afternoon, it's like my kids doing something like creative, like artsy, like at the kitchen table or whatever. Something on the TV, like Lord of the Rings, let's say, whatever. My husband and I are watching, and I have like some sort of like craft in my hand. So either like I'm crocheting something or cross stitching something. Like my hands are busy, so I'm not on my phone. Basically, is all I care about. That's like all I want, is like those three things to be happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a really nice day. That sounds great.
They don't happen very often, but I'm like, I need to like to savor that and to make it happen. But yeah.
If you could wake up tomorrow in a different author's fantasy world, what world would you choose, or maybe just what author would you choose?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I should have prepared more for this. I'm gonna like
no, we like the off the cuff answers. That's great.
Take a glance at my bookcase. The problem is that like all the books I read are like too dangerous. Like it's a little too. I'm like, I don't want to
wake up there.
Yeah. Although I am currently reading and loving, and I know I'm late to this, so no judgment, please. I am currently reading and loving Heartless Hunter. And
no judgment, because I've never read it, so
it's a good time. I would recommend it if you. This is a deep cut, but if you like musicals, and I haven't verified this, but I'm like almost 100% sure based on the content of the book. This book is heavily inspired by The Scarlet Pimpernel. like the book, but the musical slaps. Like the musical Scotland Burp is like one of my favorites. But yeah, it's very like it's like a aristocratic like young like teenager, like young woman pretends to be a ditz, but is secretly like leading this like witch revolution like behind everyone's backs, like under everyone's noses. And of course there's like the handsome guard who like thinks he's onto her, but like isn't really sure, might be falling for her. It's like catnip to me. So it's very good. So it's very much like balls and, you know, aristocracy and all this stuff. But there's also like this like little layer of intrigue, which I feel like if I was too much of a coward, I could avoid really easily. So I would live there for the balls and the gowns. And if I wanted the intrigue, I could like do the witchcraft thing, but I could also just like have pretty dresses. So
Yeah. That's the best of both worlds right there. Yeah, that's great. And then last question for the nerdy and dirty section. What is bringing you the most joy in life right now?
Yes. My answer would have been different 4 hours ago, but this is my answer now. So my daughter has been working on this short story to submit to like, so Georgia PBS Kids has like a kids writing contest. The deadline to submit is tomorrow.
Nice.
And she's been working on it for weeks, and she was almost done. And I printed off the cover sheet to like submit, and I realized the word count maximum for the submission is 200 words. And she was at least at like 600.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I was like, oh no. And so she had a total breakdown, and I was like, lucky for you, like this is my Super Bowl. Like I do this all the time. Like we can figure this out. And so over the past 4 hours, we have been like refining the story down to its like nuts and bolts, to like the core elements. And just figuring out, like, she's been debating me on like which details are essential versus which details like it's like in a good like kind of like give and take. And I feel like she's getting a sense of like what I do every day when I'm like down here in my office. And so we finally got the story down to 200 words. She's upstairs like figuring it all out right now. But I was like, we did it. Like it's like teamwork. And I feel like she has a little bit of an appreciation for like the hard part, but also like the rewarding part of the job. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Really fun.
A writer after your own heart.
I think so. We'll see. I mean, I think, you know, it's funny, like she didn't really used to care that I was an author. But then when The Dividing Sky came out, she saw the book in a bookstore and it was like, bing.
Oh, and that's so cool.
I think something like the gears are turning now, which is really cute. So.
Oh, I love that. That really would just make my heart explode if I were you. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
So, Jill, where can readers best connect with you? Is it through your social media or your newsletter? Maybe everything.
I wish I had. I mean, you can sign up for my newsletter. I send one probably once every like 3 years, but like I'm gonna be optimistic and say do it. Go to my website, jill2.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. I'm gonna get better at it. In the meantime, yes, I am on social media. I'm on Instagram and Threads at J2TEW Writes, and I'm on TikTok at Jill2. I think there's no underscore, just Jill2. Yes, and that's where I post videos, but mostly it's just me doing memes and making fun of myself. So.
Yeah. Well, and we'll have your Instagram linked in the show notes too for the interview. So people will be able to go to the show notes and find that. So that'll be exciting. Where can we purchase your books?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold. I believe The Dividing Sky is in most Barnes & Nobles, I would say. Maybe not all, but you can certainly buy it online. Kaya certainly is available online everywhere. Local indies, please support your local indies.
Yes.
And then the library, you know, they're always available for request. And then I will say, I'll do a quick plug for The Dividing Sky's audiobook. It's very good.
That was going to be my next question.
Oh, yeah. If you like a good dual POV, you know, back and forth, like dramatic irony, like it's very funny, like who knows what at what time. It's a very good, fun listen. So
yes, I love that. Mm-hmm. So besides Imaginarium, do you have any upcoming conventions or events that you're going to be going to for the rest of 2025?
Yeah. So far what I know is that this weekend I'll be in Santa Monica at Y'all West, which is like a big YA book festival. The weekend after that, I'll be back here in Georgia at the Georgia Renaissance Festival for Kaya. I'm so excited.
Nice.
I grew up going to the Renaissance Festival. This was like the only thing I had on my list for like what I wanted to do for Kaya. And they emailed me and I was like, I did it. I made it. So I'll be there.
That's so great.
In costume. Yeah. And then the end of May, I will be here in Atlanta again at the Black Romance Book Festival, talking about The Dividing Sky and An Ocean Apart. And then I'll be in DC at the Imaginarium.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we always finish our episodes here at Our Nerdiest Thing with what our nerdiest thing of the week is. And usually it is book related because that's what we do, but it doesn't have to be book related. It could be something that you did a deep dive researching for a work in progress. Really anything that you got super excited about. Jill, we would love to know what your nerdiest thing of the week is.
Yes, I do have a nerdy deep dive thing. And one of the coolest things about getting invited to do like short stories for anthologies is that I can do the deep dive and know that I'm not going to have to go too deep. I can get pulled back out because it's only like, 5,000 words max, let's say. So I got invited to do an anthology for like a dystopian story anthology that isn't announced yet. But I chose, you can kind of choose which state to set your story in, and I'm choosing Alaska. And so I have been doing a ton of research on polar ice cutters, these like massive ships whose job it is to like cut through the ice in the Arctic so that other ships can go through. And it's very interesting and kind of like what they're used for and, how their use has evolved, given relationships with Russia and all this stuff. So learning a lot about like polar geopolitics, let's say.
Yeah.
Digging into that. Yeah.
That is a great nerdiest thing of the week.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I love that answer so much. Yeah. Well, Jill, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. It's been a blast to talk to you. You are just a pleasure. I feel like we should hang out in DC. We would be
absolutely
friends, like in real life.
Let's do it. I know. I mean, I have authors I'm looking forward to seeing, but like I don't have a ton of like people that I like know at Imaginarium. So let's hang out.
Yeah. Now you know me. We'll be there together. So
perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.